The American Constitution. One comprised of documents that define the very architecture of legal systems and spell out the rules, according to which the exercise of governmental power is carried out. Constitutions ultimately reflect the political foundations of their nations. The Constitution of the United States of America, for example, consists of a single document that was created in a relatively brief interval of time in response to specific politico-historica. Formulated in the period following the conclusion of the American Revolution, the Constitution was intended to function as a blueprint that would clearly dictate the legislative and political mechanisms of a new nation. The legislature had become a focal point for dissenting opinions and visions regarding the political and legal structure of the new government, with tensions between the proponents of the rights of the states, the central government, and the individual citizen, each playing an important role. It was the need to satisfy these conflicting interests that eventually led to the adoption of the Constitution, but only after a decade of failed efforts resulting from the limited power of the young government. During the Revolutionary War, the only collective governing body was the Continental Congress, which was little more than a de facto association binding the colonies together against Britain. A monumental early attempt to create an overarching legal framework for the nation was the ratification of the Articles of Confederation in 1781, which bound the original 13 states into a loose league of semi-independent political entities. The provisions represented a triumph for those who advocated the prerogatives of the component states, because the powers of government under the Articles were mostly limited to foreign relations and management of the Western territories. Such restrictions were viewed as appropriate by the supporting delegates, most of whom considered the primary function of the national government to lie in presenting a unified symbolic and military front when dealing with the European powers. For weaknesses in the Confederate political system were soon made apparent, however, because the national government was unable to exert any significant authority over the sovereignty of the states. Of particular concern was the fact that national authorities lacked any general power of taxation, necessitating continual requests to individual states for funds. Each state functioned in many respects as an independent nation, effectively holding veto power over any amendments proposed by the Congress. Consequently, because any changes to the Articles of Confederation required the unanimous support of all 13 states, substantial modifications to the contents impossible. Once it had become apparent that the Articles contained inherent weaknesses, it was acknowledged that a new constitutional document was needed, and in 1787 the Constitutional Convention convened, where delegates quickly voted to abandon the Articles of Confederation entirely. After extensive debate, representatives of the 13 political bodies eventually ratified the Constitution of the United States of America, a document that represented a compromise between the rights of the states and the need for a strong centralized system of governance. On March 4, 1789, this need was realized when the federal government of the United States began operations under the new One of the major obstacles to the ratification of the new Constitution was reaching an agreement upon the formula to be used to determine state representation in the legislature, with larger, more populous states demanding a proportional division and the smaller ones desiring equal representation. To accommodate the considerations of all member states, a bicameral legislature was established, made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate. It was decided that the number of state delegates sent to the House of Representatives would be determined by population, while each state, regardless of size, would send an equal number to the Senate. Consequentially, the U.S. Constitution endows the House of Representatives with a much larger delegation than that of the Senate. While the first 5 articles delineated the responsibilities of the various branches of government and the amendment process, Article 6 established the U.S. Constitution as the supreme law of the land, requiring that all legislators, judicial members, and officers, whether or federal, swear an oath of allegiance to the Constitution. In addition, it explicitly commands that state law not be in contradiction to federal law, and that in such cases, state adjudicators are bound to uphold the sovereignty of federal law. However, to satisfy the rights of the states, the Constitution also asserts that all powers not granted to the federal government remain under the purview of the state governments. 8. Subsequently, the rights of individual citizens were addressed by the 10 amendments that collectively came to be known as the Bill of Rights, which launched a new era of freedom and guaranteed a wide range of liberties, including freedom of speech, religion, and the press. The amendments also addressed the judiciary process by granting the right to a fair trial for those citizens charged with crimes. Eventually, these provisions would be incorporated into the constitutions of the various states, ensuring that all American citizens have certain inalienable rights regardless of their area of residence. Some, however, such as the right to bear arms, remain controversial even today.